Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at D-Wave Quantum. It is time for another update, and we see the rally that has so far formed from our support box come to at least a temporary stop, at least a temporary correction. Now, we have some indications from the internal structure we have within this pattern. What would be the most likely path? What would be the risks of what we are currently building? The levels of support to watch, the levels of resistance to still consider, and of course we want to provide all those details today. But before we do that, let's provide the context, because it is extremely important to understand where we are positioned on this chart overall. So here on this chart we have probably the most bullish pattern out of the quantum stocks available. We have the possibility to track this as a larger impulse, where this could have been a series of 1-2 setups, and this would be our larger wave 3 to the upside that could extend quite considerably, especially given that we have here on this chart a rather more simplistic count that we are tracking, and in reality, even this wave 3 we have here marked as a top could still be extending, could even see several additional highs, and yeah, this wave 5 that has taken place here could actually still be part of this structure, where this wave 5 we have been tracking would be expected to still extend even higher primarily. Even the extensions we would further see in the eventuality that this trend continues to hold could still be part of this wave 3 itself. But even if we do not follow that path, even if we have a more substantial top in place, let's say this as a larger wave 3, even then we have plenty of room to continue to higher prices. We have plenty of additional highs we would still expect, right? Even if this wave 3 already has a top in place, we form this as a larger wave 4. We would expect still one more high before we build this as a larger wave 3. Then what? Well, then we actually expect another fourth and another fifth before we consider this complete as an even larger wave 3. Then what? We would expect still even another fourth and a fifth to complete this entire cycle, this entire wave to the upside as an impulse. So there is plenty of room to still extend higher on this chart, and this can apply to many of the quantum stocks, but this chart actually has the strongest base in my opinion. And it's not even to mean that it will have the strongest and highest upside out of all the quantum stocks, but I just trust the pattern of this chart more. Now, for this chart, we simply have, as I was saying, this is a series of 1-2 setups. This large wave 3 could still be expected to extend. If it doesn't, that's all fine, because we are currently tracking the internal pattern where we have a 3-wave correction in place. Whether this is within this wave 4, whether this is within the larger wave 4, I frankly do not care at the moment, as we have this ABC pattern complete. It doesn't need any further extensions, and I am happy to see this chart push to new all-time highs. Now, if you remember, within this pattern we have been tracking a quite complete wave C. We have even provided this support box as it seemed likely to find a more substantial bottom within this region. We did highlight in the newsletter and even in the videos the possibility of getting the break below this green support box, but we were expecting to build the foundation for the reversal to higher prices within this region. So even though we have this pattern full, even though we have started the reversal, we have been looking for the next levels of indication that a more substantial bottom would be in place. And we can either do that by breaking additional levels of resistance, or by building an initial 5-wave move to the upside. We have been tracking both scenarios, and in white we had this idea where perhaps this as a wave C would not necessarily be complete, where we could see an additional extension to lower prices, where instead we would have only bottomed within the wave 3 in this area. This would be our larger wave 4, and then we would get an extension into the wave 5 to take us still to lower prices. And of course, this is still a threat. We have been tracking the levels of resistance for this pattern and we haven't broken them yet, right? We had this red resistance box, again, structural resistance we have identified in these previous pushes to the upside. Well, it seems to not have provoked too much of a rejection, but we did get rejected at the 61.8% retracement, the last level of resistance I could have even tracked for such a wave 4. Does the internal structure within this movement to the upside satisfy this as a wave 4? Unfortunately, it actually does. I can simply track this as an A, B, C pattern, which is exactly what would be expected of a wave 4 within a diagonal structure, even more particularly. So this is not a good sign. Then we have been tracking the path for the 5-wave move to the upside. Since we only have 3 waves, as clearly stated within this as a wave 4, we do not have the confirmation of the initial 5-wave move to the upside. So currently, even though we are trading at quite high levels, this stock is in a state of high risk. We haven't broken resistance, we haven't built the 5-wave pattern, and we are starting a quite substantial correction already. Now, we have been tracking some ideas of how this could be extending to even higher prices within a 5-wave pattern. We had a couple of ideas, in fact, where even within this wave 3 we have been looking for continued upside. Well, that didn't necessarily hold, it's not looking too good. The blue scenario is already out the window, we failed to continue this idea of an impulse, and in the orange scenario, well, that could still technically work out. We haven't broken the levels of support for such a structure, but the proportions are already extending to quite a lot less than ideal levels, right? Sure, technically this pattern could still work out. Let's say we build here a larger A, B, C pattern, we bottom within this wave 4, within the next low, and then we start the 5th wave. Sure, this could still technically work out, but it's not going to be a particularly high confidence pattern. So what can we track? Well, out of this idea of an initial 5-wave move to the upside, all I have is this area of support down to $16.6. Below it, I cannot trust continuation within a wave 5 in this structure. If I want to, I could track something along the lines of this yellow interpretation, but even then, to help the proportions make sense for a path forward, I would likely have to consider the wave 2 had actually bottomed here, that this structure has instead formed a running flat within this as a wave 2, and we would have a better chance theoretically of forming a wave 4 in the yellow structure in this path forward, but the support box would actually remain unchanged. It would be at the same levels we are tracking internally for this orange interpretation in both of these scenarios. I can actually even change the color for this support zone because it applies for both interpretations in orange and in yellow. And it might even make more sense to track the yellow scenario, but I can tell you at this point it doesn't matter within which of these structures we follow through, because if we have the initial 5-wave move to the upside, I will have my confirmation and I will be looking for a trade setup regardless. Now, in the eventuality of a failure of this support zone down to $16.6, I have no option but to consider that either this white structure is getting the extension, is succeeding in forming one more low, or this is building a larger diagonal structure to the upside, or what could be perhaps even more likely at that point, an A, B, C pattern. This can allow us to track slightly lower levels of support, but they wouldn't provide a particularly high probability in terms of a successful reversal to higher prices. I would have to track these levels down to $14.4, where a break even below the 78.6% retracement is rather another confirmation that this chart is following through within the white scenario. It is getting an extension to lower prices. And beyond this, what I would be tracking personally would be the internal structure. I would be looking here for an A, B, C pattern to complete within this as a correction, and within this wave C, I would be looking for an internal 5-wave move to the downside, of course, where I would consider this wave 4 to have possibly topped internally in this tiny relief rally on Friday, and I would be looking for one more low before considering a count to be potentially complete. From these levels, I can actually look for a reversal, but at this point, we do not have any confirmation and it is still a waiting game. If we manage to break here the 61.8% retracement, which would be the last level of resistance for such a wave 4 at $20, well, that would allow me to not really expect this additional low within a wave 5 in green, but it wouldn't be enough for a confirmation that we have bottomed, that we are looking for the reversal to new highs. So once again, for continuation to lower prices within this as a wave 5 in green, I am watching the $20 level at the 61.8% retracement for the signal that this structure has failed to create an initial 5-wave move to the upside. I am looking for a sustained break below $16.6, and if that happens, technically we can still track the rally to continue, but it would be within a very fragile pattern. It would be only within a 3-wave move to the upside, and it would have support down to $14.4, where a break even below that, well, it would be a strong suggestion that this white pattern, this white extension within the wave 5, would very likely be taking us to lower prices. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership. And other than that, let me know what else you would like me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I wish you a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.